Hey, good people, welcome to another episode of Thursday Thoughts, the first one of the new month at that. This day, a month ago, my life changed physically, and I kind of wanted to share more about it now that I've kind of recovered and made sense of all of it. It's been a unexpected, hectic, but overall, in a sense, necessary. So this day a month ago, November 7th, I went into the ER. This happened the same week actually as I was filming the first week of November edition of Weekend Recap. So you guys kind of got to be there as it happened in a sense. Usually like when I have physical struggles, it happens off camera and then I'll usually take a break. And so this was like the first like real time that y'all had a closer look into something like that. The night before the ER visit on that Monday, it was just very hard to breathe. My chest felt tight and it didn't hurt. It just felt tight and I couldn't even yawn. And that's when I knew like something's up. So I just went to sleep thinking, okay, I'm tired. Like, okay, whatever. So I woke up and I thought, okay, it's gone. I don't feel bad anymore. That was my reaction when I first woke up. But as soon as I got out of bed and started getting in the movement of things, getting ready for the day, it came back just as strong. And I was breathing heavily and I was like, oh. So I went to school still feeling the same way. I texted my mom throughout the day about how I was feeling. And one thing that started happening probably about midway through the day was like my body temp was changing a lot. I was hot and cold and hot and cold. And I promise you, I kept taking off my sweatshirt and putting it back on and taking it off and putting it back on. And we were in class and I have fourth period with my best friend slash brother. And he was like, are you good? And I was like, I don't know. And so I got home after school, sat on the couch for about 5 minutes and I felt suffocated. And I instantly was like, this isn't right. And so, of course, that led to the ER visit.
More frequent and complete bowel movements. That helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort.
So we get there, check in. Thank God it was not a long wait. It was less than 10 minutes, probably less than 5 minutes, honestly. And so we get back there, they do an EKG, and I knew what that was because, Pop had heart failure. So left and right doctors and nurses were always doing EKGs on him all the time. So I was familiar with all of that. It wasn't scary to me. They did an x-ray. I will say the scariest thing for me though was blood work. I'm definitely scared of needles. My surgery definitely contributed to that fear and anxiety. I still have like little marks on my hands from surgery from the IVs, which was almost 5 years ago. I had the jitters. It was also cold in there, which did not help at all. We waited a hot minute, and I do mean a hot minute. And then finally the doctors came back and said everything's fine. And I was immediately relieved because it's like, okay, great. It's holiday season and almost a new year. I'm not taking any crap into holiday season or 2024 physically. And so that felt good. And then on the other hand, I was kind of confused because I'm like, okay, so what's actually going on? But after much time in prayer and worship, this stemmed from multiple things. It was one, a spiritual attack. It was two, a lesson learned for me. And then number three, just a time of recovery in general. So one kind of touching on the aspect of spiritual attack, it was a spiritual attack in a sense because it was Satan trying to distract me and get me off track. And I definitely noticed that mentally, it was a mental battle to organize life after everything happened. I remember going to school after all of this, and I would just stare at the walls and would be present, but not present. And so the weekend after the ER visit, I was trying to catch up on homework that I hadn't done throughout the week, of course. And my focus was so It was terrible. I wouldn't even call it focus. And I knew that it was just Satan trying to throw anything that he could. So this was also a lesson learned because I needed this sort of slap in the face almost to force me to take better care of myself. And that is no joke at all. I've always heard that if you don't prioritize your rest, that your body will do it for you. And I understood that more than ever when everything went down. And I just find it interesting that in the first Tuesday Talk episode of November, it was the same day of the ER visit. And I talked about how I need to take better care of myself. And I promise you guys, I am like trying so hard to remember to take my vitamins now. And I usually stop when I reach my physical limit, but in this case, it wasn't enough. Like I had to be shut down almost. And then, of course, it was a time of recovery. I had to sit down, I had to step back, I had to take a breath and just chill. Before all of this happened, a few weeks prior to this, I had a lot of events that I was involved in that were going on at church and school back to back. And in this situation, I was literally forced to just stop completely. And I was also able to see the different factors that were contributing to this problem in many aspects of life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and beyond that. It took me a while to regain my strength and energy again. I remember this Sunday after all of that happened, and I was literally exhausted at church. Every day since the ER for that first week, I would wake up super early and not be able to go back to sleep. And that's also another problem that came in with this as well. And it even started happening before this. With this in mind, I was also in a way able to see or feel rather what my grandmother felt the last few years of her life. My grandmother was a pastor's wife and devoted her life to ministry. And that's, what she did. And with my Pop's health conditions, she juggled back and forth between church and home, working, but also taking care of her husband more than herself. And, she had her own set of health issues. And I found myself kind of in her position just a little bit because it's always been a thing for us where we do for others and we care for others, and yet we have our own set of things going on. But when you are literally being sat down by a physical shutdown, you are forced to sit with you and make you a priority. So it made me reconfigure a little bit and choose to actually do better. I think my friends are happy for me now more than ever that I'm choosing myself in a much more substantial way that benefits me and keeps me at my best as much as possible. And I know that they've wanted this for me for a long time, for a while, and I knew I needed it for myself too, but it took all of this just to show how heavily involved I am in so many things at once. At the same time, we must not avoid how this also goes back to the drawback of being one of those good-hearted people, because people want to be connected to good people and people that they can trust and build a bond with and be accountable to, and all the things that a real friendship contains. And as someone who comes from a public figure family, it's very easy for people to think that I just have it all together. So they depend on me more, which puts you in this expectation to always be there, regardless if you are mentally, emotionally, or physically unavailable, because people need you to help them because they can't help themselves, but you can't either. But of course, you can't let them see that. At the end of the day, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it does get exhausting when you're in your world and present in the worlds of other people you love as well. And so just finding that balance. So things that I am doing to officially contribute to a better self-care journey, prioritizing rest and giving myself permission to rest, especially on weekends with school being in session and things like that. I'm so glad that just how everything worked. It was so chaotic, but the timing of it, like, I'm so glad that the week after all of this happened was literally Thanksgiving break, and it was right around the corner, and I was able to just chill. Another thing is prioritizing, balancing, and also limiting my involvement and availability in the lives of the people that I love the most. and not just saying yes because I love them, but also respecting myself and understanding that I can't always be there and do everything for everybody, because after all, the more you do, there's still more to be done. So not overdoing it when I reach my limit, being present in the moment. Going back to the organization hacks video I posted in October, it's so easy for me to just plan a week in advance or a month in advance sometimes, and now I do things on a smaller scale, and to just try to keep myself out of that zone of needing to have things like planned out as much as possible. So this is what life is like now. I feel different, and I know it wouldn't have happened had it not been for all of this. Once again, thank you guys so much for the prayers. I've had so many people praying for me and checking on me every single day until I felt normal again. And here's to a journey of doing better physically and choosing me in this season of life. And speaking of doing better, I'm pretty sure y'all can hear in my voice that I need some sleep, and that is exactly what I'm about to go do. I love you all so much. Have a great night.